So today I'm going to be talking about a man and his relationship with his mom. And this is really, if you follow me on Instagram, the Loor, I just shared how Will, my husband, his mom just passed away. And it was heartbreaking, and it is heartbreaking. And so this was, she two nights ago she passed away, and it was unexpected, and it's been awful, right? But I want to talk about how important she was to Will and to us, but I feel like that is something that you can take away, huge takeaway, when you guys are connecting with people and their relationship with their mother speaks volumes of who they are and their character and what's to come for you. I've dated guys who did not get along with their moms and just talked so much shit, and it was just awful relationship and toxic or whatever. And those relationships never went well for me, like ever. And so what was really so amazing was on our first date that I had with Will, I asked him how his relationship was with his family, and he had said how close they all are. And him and his parents, he talked about how his parents were still together and they're like, they adore each other and they're so in love still. And that's still to this day, like that's what it was. And so when he spoke about that love that he saw growing up in his house for all these years, he was like, that's what I want. And so that was huge for me. I was like, okay, he's seen it and that's what he wants. That's awesome. But then he also said how his mom has struggled with severe rheumatoid arthritis since forever and since as long as he can remember. And oh my gosh, I'm trying to make it through where I don't cry. Oh my gosh. So I know it's kind of raw because this all just happened, but I really felt called to do an episode on this because Nola is her name. She's I just saw her in Thanksgiving, and I even wanted her to I wanted to have her on my podcast, and I was like, oh my gosh, and she was so excited to do it. She was always cheering me on, and she was just an angel on earth. Like, she was just a beautiful light. So Will saying on our first date, he said, how she has struggled for years and, in and out of the hospital, had a whole bunch of operations, kind of like the bionic woman, he would say, and his dad would joke about that. They all had fun with that and made the best out of it because she was just always being very positive about anything that happened. So even though she struggled, medically and with her body, she always pushed forward. And, she only passed at, I think, 64 years old. So, but Will told me on our first date, he was like, ever since I was a kid, it's like mom was always in and out of the hospital, and she was in a wheelchair sometimes, and he would see his dad taking care of her, and he always showed up for her. And Will wanted a relationship. He was gonna be like that too with his partner, right? And that's truly how he is. Like, he always shows up for me. He is like, he treats me like a queen, right? And he's the one cooking and like cleaning, and like he's like that guy that does like, oh my gosh, everything. He's just the sweetest. And truly, his parents were like that always. His dad always took care of his mom. And so but then he also said on our first date, which I'll never forget, and it was just so sweet, he was like, oh my gosh, okay, so yep, this getting a little emotional. I know. I'm trying to get the words out. He was like, yeah, my mom, I just want you to know, whoever, whatever, I want to find my partner, but I want to just tell you that my intention is down the road, if anything were to happen to my dad, I would be the one to take care of my mom. And, how do you feel about that? That's what Will is asking me on our first date. Okay. And I just knew that this guy was so different. He was just so emotionally mature. He was so intentional. Like when I was asking the questions, he didn't ever feel like, oh, this is too much. Like it wasn't like that. He was really aligned to what I was looking for, and he was really wanting to find a partner too. So our conversation was just like back and forth. It was an 8-hour date. Our first date was 8 hours. We couldn't stop talking. And when he said that about his mom, I just felt like he had so much love for her, and it was so healthy because, you know, I had on my list of things that I don't want is a mama's boy. And I knew he wasn't, because it was different. Like he was an independent, strong man, but he also was one that takes responsibility, and he has a younger brother, and he felt like as the older brother, it was his responsibility. If anything were to happen, he would take care of his mom. And I thought that was so admirable, so honorable. I was just impressed with him as a human being. You know, I was like, he's such a good guy. And actually, it's very much like my dad. My dad took care of his mom, and he was so like that. Like that's exactly who my dad is too. So that's something that I had seen in my own life, and seen Will be like that. I was like, green light. Like this is green flags, green light, whatever you want to call it. I was like, this is so huge. And so I hope you're, if you can take something away from this, the way a man talks about his mom, ask about how the relationship is. See if they are coming from a place of that kind of love, that kind of nurturing relationship. If the guy is telling you how he hates his mom and it's toxic shit, it's like, wait a second, red flag. Like this is really something to take, like not rush into, and you need to ask questions and make sure you listen to what they say. Now, if you're listening to this, and you happen to not have a good relationship with your mom, that's not to say that you are not going to be a good partner. Okay, and I want to make sure you understand that, because I do know a lot of people that don't have healthy relationships with their mom. But it's so important to do the inner work to truly understand that relationship, understand what's going on, heal those wounds before jumping into a relationship with somebody. So if you are like, I hate my mom and I am not going to talk about it and let me move on, that's never going to happen. I'm just going to tell you that. Like, it's so important to have that growth mindset and be like, wait a second, I hate my mom. But that's concerning. Or let me take steps to figure this out. Like, what's going on there? What do I need to unpack? Let me talk to a therapist. Let me work with a coach. Let me do something about this. But, or read books about it, or, watch things about it, learn more about it, be curious. But, so and I do feel like so many people here in this community, right? And subscribe if you haven't. Make sure you're, follow me on the JkL&x on Instagram. I want to connect with you. I want to do episodes for you. So make sure you let me know if there's something you want me to cover. I'm all about it. I always do. But, if you are struggling with your relationship with your mom, right? Like, listen to this. Like, you don't need to get defensive and be like, you don't get it, like they're a bitch. Like, I'm not saying that you had the best mom, right? But how can you, instead of let me just say it's a toxic relationship and be the victim of that, your story there, how can you be the author of your story? How can you, and the only way to become the author of your story is truly by getting help, like getting that support. Sometimes you cannot get there when you're just in your own, seeing it through your lens, right? If you've only had experience of total shit with your mom, it's very hard to see the light on the other side there, so it is really important, and that's your responsibility. That's up to you, right? So if you want to show up, if you want a partner that is going to show up for you and be loving to you and all this, they need to love themselves first. They need to do that inner work first and to be that partner you want. And the same goes for you. And so, you know, I don't want to digress too much, but the whole point of this episode is about a man and their relationship with a mom. And so pay attention, ask the questions. And that should be from the jump, first date. Find out, listen, and believe them. Believe what they say. You know, trust that gut feeling. And you're like, oh shit, wow, they hate their mom and they haven't done anything about it. And, you know, don't be like, oh, well, maybe I could help them. Screw that. I'm serious. I am so serious. You have done enough in your life. I truly feel that so often we are putting everybody first. We are always showing up and giving so much grace to everybody and helping everyone reach their potential. I want you to put you first. That's it. I don't care that there's so many nice things about them. I can help them through it. We're done. That kind of relationship where he hates his mom and he hasn't done the inner work for it and figured it out, it's a bye-bye time moment. Okay? Thank you so much for listening. Look at this. I made it through without tears. Okay. Thank you, Nola. Love you so much. I'm sending love to her. And thank you for listening. And remember, it has to be crazy love or nothing. Until next time. Bye. Thank you.